All right, welcome to another episode from the Chart Reader. So we're going to take another look at the sector, looking at the normal five, tilray, CGC, MSOS, SNDL, and high tide, all right? And really what we've been doing, and I think I'm going to have to do it again, right? We're chaptering the first three together, tilray, CGC, and MSOS, because really I like the latter two more, right? SNDL and high tide continue to show why they've been the best for a bit, right? You know I have a lot to say about the high tide earnings, so we'll get to that shortly, right? But the one interesting things with the first three is they're kind of trying right now. And personally, I don't want to break these five into two groups, the better two and the other three, right? I want sector unison. I want the entire sector moving together, ideally up, and sector unison is really what brings strength, right? You don't want two outliers. You want them all together, right? And I think what I like, and you should see it already on Tilray, this thing hit a very tough resistance, and though it looked bad, we actually never confirmed the loss of the 20, and hey, all of a sudden we're trying to get back over that 8 and the 20, right? CGC, real tough resistance with that 200. A lot of lines were down here, so that makes the job a little easier, right? But the lines held, and yeah, it looks like we're gonna maybe try one more time to go up here, right? MSOS, what did we do? Exact same thing, right? We actually really struggled. We kind of broke up, but we never confirmed any of that. And then again, this actually definitely looked worse. We definitely confirmed the loss of the 8 and the 20 and really haven't bounced just as nicely as those other two, right? But hopefully these three are starting to get as good as what we've been calling the better ones, SNDL and high tide, right? So SNDL, the one reason that I was really liking this one is while all those other ones had lost the 8 and the 20, this thing actually never loses the 20, right? It actually physically never closes below it. There's clearly black in between the bottom of that candle and the moving average. And then, yeah, we open down here, but we wait for the end of the market for a reason, right? And yeah, lo and behold, this thing never, again, here, we open below it for sure. I see that, but boom, 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 there we are. Very interesting doji right here, and very interesting doji right here, and clearly a lot more interesting of a doji, but a doji nonetheless. All right, so high tide earnings, yo, I saw the double digit pop after hours. All right, that's actually not something that tilray, I even called it tilray because I'm already thinking of the double digit after hours on the right. Like we had back to back pretty hardcore volume, right? Like this was an interesting earnings moment. Listen, I know everyone wanted us to close over 4, right? I see the test over my resistance line right there. We barely missed it. 399 was the high. I know we wanted it, but listen, today was just I got rid of it. Give me 1 second. Let me pause this thing 1 second. Okay, cool. I'm back. Look, earnings was just kind of at a weird time. We're less than 24 hours away from the FOMC meeting. Again, this has absolutely nothing to do with high tide, almost very little to do with the sector because like rates don't really matter here because we can't really get good loans from the banks and stuff like that, right? But hey, FOMC has it's literally like an earnings call for the market, right? So it makes sense to me that this thing had to be a doji because yo, as good as the earnings were, and they were good earnings and all that, FOMC just it makes you take the breath. Nonetheless, I love really interesting dojis. I actually like that the two stocks that we've been saying are the strongest have the same interesting doji, right? Like I like that. There's actually a unison right there. Let tomorrow happen, and I think things would be good. Look, it is by no means the same thing, but I had a good candle here. We had an interesting doji the day after, and then a beautiful double J. Like an interesting doji generally brings a real big up or down. I liked the good earnings on high tide. I'm hoping of a good FOMC, and that's where the iffy is. I'm hoping for the good FOMC, right? Just give it to me. We'll move on, and things should be good, right? So, I think the one thing I'll say before we get into it, the last actual thing for the opening thoughts, the Dow Jones is definitely still a little bit of the weakest of the big three, right? When I look at the S&P 500, this thing is still nicely over the 8. Yeah, you can say it's kind of curving a little bit. Again, I think this red candle today was a lot of, what is it called? FOMC coming up tomorrow, right? When I look at NASDAQ again, this thing actually looks identical. This thing is taking up and arguably nicer, right? So it's a little bothersome that the Dow Jones isn't in unison with the two. I think a lot of it is the FOMC because rates really matter for like Dow Jones industrial companies, right? Like rates really do a lot for the home builders, rates do a lot for the financial institutions. It does a lot for these Dow Jones less techie companies. And if we get good FOMC, that should do real well for Dow Jones. And really, I think with the sector momentum that we're getting, hopefully this thing will actually ride the good of the Dow Jones instead of watching it go up and then this thing stays flat or down, right? Last thing, just give me one more federal rumor sprinkled on top of all of this, right? We're starting to see some good earnings from the sectors, and just give me a little bit more rumor, and that could be a real beautiful thing, all right? So all that said, before we do go any further and I give you more of my thoughts and opinions, what are we going to do? Same thing we always do, right? We'll take a look at the daily and the weekly to see how these things are setting up short term. We have our 5 moving averages. There are horizontal, there's a couple more. Yeah, there are horizontal support and resistance lines that I do draw manually myself. And then when we are done up here, we'll use the MACD, RSI, and volume as our lower indicators. Hey, really quickly, if you can, please subscribe to this channel. Share this video online with your friends. Comment good or bad if you disagree. Look, anything you can do helps so much with these YouTube algorithms. But for real, just being here, giving me your time, oh, I'm so grateful for it, all right? So I just realized I do have a meeting at 2 o'clock, so I'm going to kind of rush this, but I will do my best, all right? So look, TLRY, CGC, and MSOS. All three of them, and I would focus on the first two first, and then maybe I'll do MSOS later. Look, we hit a hard resistance, we came back down. Luckily, the 8 and the 20, which have been a real nice set of lines for us over the last 3 months, it's holding, right? And we've seen it before where we slip under it, where we actually see the 8 slip under the 20. That's a death cross right there, right? Boom, it came back, right? This was definitely federal rumor driven, and that kind of goes back to the last thing I just said, right? Give me a federal rumor to just boom me up, right? But hey, at the minimum, it knows how to get over this. Hopefully can actually do it again, right? And that's what we're looking for. I think the important line here is going to be $1.32. If you can start creeping into like 133, maybe 135 even, I'm going to start thinking a retest of 151, all right? This cannot go below 111. $1.11 must hold for us to still like TLRY. The good thing is the 50 is coming up, so hey, that 111 loss might not look as bad if it holds here for a bit and that 50 keeps coming up, right? And really that echoes what CGC did. This thing hit a resistance, but the good thing was all these moving averages were so close to that resistance. Yeah, it fell. Yeah, it sucked that it fell, but it really didn't fall that much, and it really could not fall much lower because there were so many moving averages here to hold it, give it some time to get ready. Volume's not crazy, but it is getting a little bit better. I like the correlation with TLRY right there. Just get me over this 146, right? Maybe we'll call 155, 154 is where I'm clicking. I think that's our confirmation, 153 if you really want, but get over that and we're going to basically retest 170. I love CGC over 170 because you break 170, you're over all 5. You're probably going to go for 2. And we've already seen 2 of the other 3 in this set already go after the death line, which is all the way up here at 280 for CGC, right? So very much love it over 170. I think it's very interesting over 150. Really, this thing shouldn't go below 135. That's really what I'm expecting, all right? With MSOS, this one's just a little bit lagging on them, right? Like this one's still obviously under the 8 and the 20. It does kind of look like the 50 did do a good bounce right here, right? So I think the important thing is this death line again. We really need to get over 491. There's a lot to love at 506. All right, I think 506 is probably well worth waiting for. It's definitely worrisome under 395. I'm clicking at 393 right now. All right, so that's these three right here. I'm really sorry I did have to rush this. I at least want to give some good love to the other two. Let's come into High Tide. All right, so High Tide had some real good earnings yesterday. All right, and clearly the market loved it after hours. I don't think, maybe I'm wrong. Let me know if you all know otherwise, because I think you all will. Maybe this one had a chance of doing it in March. I don't remember seeing High Tide pop double digits after hour. If I'm not mistaken, it was the top 5, maybe top 7 after hours pop yesterday. I almost said top 3, but I wasn't sure. I'm a little more confident with 5 for sure, more on 7, right? But yeah, that's not something that this stock does. And one thing I've seen Raj kind of put on a lot of the recent posts is they're getting more coverage from analysts. Look, yeah, technically I'm an analyst, right? But I've got less than 7,000 subscribers on YouTube and nowhere near on anything else, right? Like, I'm not an analyst, right? When you get real analysts that have real followings covering small stocks, that's it right there, because you hear me say it all the time. Volume is what matters here, right? Like, this thing was a 50,000 ticker, sorry, a 50,000 share ticker at one point. I remember getting so excited when it was starting to live in this like 200, right? Like, look, and this in a cut, like, this thing was 65,000 shares if in the volume right there. Move a little bit more, then it goes to 200, right? Like 500, 100, like, I remember the moves from that sub 100 to around 200 consistently. Then we started kind of living in this 1,400,000, right? Like, as you get more volume and just kind of look at these little pops, right? Like, pop and then nothing and then a whole mess of nothings, little more sustained. This is nice right here. And let's just see if FOMC is smooth. To me, I love this interesting doji right here. Just on a technical thing, look, in a 7-hour, today was not a holiday. Today was a full 7-hour day. This thing did not move a penny from open to close. Some people thought it should have flown to 4. Some people thought it should have fallen under 370, under 360 even. They literally did not move by a penny. In that much indecision, the candle after tends to say what it is, right? And really, as I zoom out, there's not that much more. I'm basically looking for this thing to confirm that $4 today that it tested. That's what we're actually looking for. There's no other educated place I can click, right? So I'm hoping for 4 tomorrow. Really, this thing is very bullish as low as that 360 people thought about. Because, yeah, you're going to give up this whole thing, but you're at least going to hold this. I like that. And really, even if this thing comes as low as 350, High Tide is actually still bullish, right? But again, I'm liking the sector recovery on those first 3. I'm liking our initial 2 strongest ones staying strong. I liked what the reaction was. Look, it's a lot of reason why I say don't worry, don't pay too much attention after hours, and regular hours matters more. Like, there's this candle I think really emphasizes it, right? But again, if it wasn't FOMC tomorrow and it was just purely the reaction, and yeah, volume definitely held, I think it would have been a different candle. You know what I mean? So again, we're looking for 4. I'm all right as low as 350. After 4, if 4 breaks, my next line is 488, and it is a fast 488. Green, green, green. A year of nothing before. Red, 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 green, 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 red, 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 green, 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 red, red, red. And then nearly 3 years of absolutely nothing. If this gets over 4, our lower indicators are way good enough to take this thing to 488, all right? From there, I'll start talking higher, and I obviously have a line higher than that, but for now, I think 488 is a decent target, especially given the doji we see here, all right? Let me know your thoughts. Let me know your opinion. SNDL people, I'm so sorry. I literally have to jump to a 2 o'clock right now. I appreciate you all so, so much.